So, it seems like things are really heating up when it comes to Caleb Malhotra. And from the Vancouver Canucks perspective, this ain't strictly a Caleb thing. There also is a very legitimate discussion to have and updates to be known about when it comes to Caleb's dad, Manny Malhotra. We've spoken about the entire Malhotra connection, whether it's actually a productive idea to hire a guy as head coach and then draft his son third overall like it's projected the Vancouver Canucks may do. But we have some updates in regards to the Caleb Malhotra situation that deserve to be talked about. Before we do that, though, let's refer back to a comment made by Jeff Merrick over a month ago on Schaefer and Price. I think this sets the tone for what we are about to hear later in this commentary. Jeff Merrick said on S&P on April 17th, there have been a lot of eyeballs on Caleb Malhotra, to the point where I really do wonder if it's not the first overall pick that the Canucks get. Even if it's number 2, I wonder if this is the direction they go. So already, 1 month ago, the seeds were being planted in this Canucks fanbase that if the Canucks were able to get the first overall pick or the second overall pick, maybe Caleb Malhotra would have been that guy. Who really knows? Now, we're talking about what some of these other insiders are saying. Rick Dhaliwal said this earlier this morning. I do believe the Canucks have Caleb Malhotra ranked higher than Stenberg right now. And this, of course, got a lot of attention, a lot of fans going out there and talking about whether or not Caleb Malhotra really is a guy worth taking over the projected second overall pick and potentially challenging first overall pick Ivar Stenberg out of Sweden. But it gets even crazier. Take a look at this. It's Cam Robinson who made an appearance on Sakaris and Price yesterday as well. The scoop essentially reads that Caleb Malhotra is a top 3 prospect on a lot of NHL teams' lists. Diamond-2K went out there and posted this. Shout out to them. He said, I always enjoy hearing Cam Robinson's take because, of course, Cam Robinson is one of the main elite prospects guys. He's one of the most in-the-know people when it comes to prospect conversations, and he does his job really well. He was on Sakaris and Price yesterday. Here are some notes from the show. Cam Robinson mentioned that he has seen the list from a bunch of NHL teams, and Caleb Malhotra is a top 3 on many lists. Apparently, even on one list, Caleb was ranked number 1. Robinson said there is also some consideration that some might even move up and trade with San Jose Sharks to pick Malhotra. A lot of teams are high on him as a center. Cam doesn't think Malhotra will be taken outside of the top 3 based on the lists he has seen. He also believes if the San Jose Sharks make a move, it's for an NHL-ready defenseman. It doesn't make sense for them to trade for more draft picks as they're making a push now for the playoffs. Would it make sense for the Canucks to trade Hronek and the late first from Minnesota and whatever else to grab the second overall pick too? Grab themselves Stenberg and Malhotra in the top of the draft? The Calgary Flames made it publicly known they want to trade up, and they have plenty of assets, but it doesn't really fit with what the Sharks' needs are. But the Flames do need and want a second center. Cam also doesn't believe it makes sense for the Sharks to draft Caleb, as that means there would be 3 down the middle, and you would eventually have to trade one of them like they did with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Or the Vancouver Canucks, right? They had Miller, Pettersson, and Lindholm. They had Miller, Pettersson, and Horvat. But this is a really interesting update as well, that some NHL teams have Caleb Malhotra at number 3, at number 2, and apparently even one team has him at number 1. Oh my goodness, are we really going to go down this direction now? Gavin McKenna was the projected first overall pick in this 2026 NHL Entry Draft for years. We were hearing all about, Bedard's got a cousin in the WHL who's so good. The Medicine Hat Tigers are getting a good one out of Gavin McKenna, and that's exactly what they got. A guy who just came onto the scene, torched the league right away, and now He's gone out there and produced a decent amount of points in a much more difficult NCAA system. Say what you want about the attitude, the defensive play, whether or not him clocking a guy for making fun of his mom was a good or a bad or an unnecessary thing. This is a guy who puts up points everywhere he goes. He's a talented player, and he was supposed to go first overall. We had contention that Stenberg could have challenged for that first overall spot instead at that same World Junior Tournament, because even though Stenberg produced fewer points, the guy displayed great NHL projectable skill. He played the World Junior Tournament as an underage player like a full-time NHL veteran. He just has that mature, poised, translatable game to the National Hockey League. Caleb Malhotra, on the other hand, is a guy that had one of the crazy explosions from draft -1 to draft eligible season, and he was playing in a sufficiently weaker CHL league compared to previous years. I don't want to go poo-poo on his entire draft campaign. He had a great year, 84 points in 67 regular season games, 26 points in 15 playoff games. That's noteworthy. And Caleb is not going to make the NHL jump right away. He's going to go to college, and this will also give him another level in his developmental path. However, now we're seeing some teams that apparently have Caleb Malhotra ranked number 1. That is really interesting. Adam Kiersonblad of the Hockey News went out there and responded to Dollywell's report that the Canucks have Malhotra over Stenberg right now. He said, "I hope I'm wrong, but this is giving Virtanen over Nylander vibes." Now, as we recognize, Nylander was a skilled Swede from Europe, and Jake Virtanen was a local Canadian guy, big power forward-like asset who unfortunately had a number of skills and talented elements to his repertoire, but he just didn't have the hockey IQ to be able to last in a long-term NHL role. Nylander, on the other hand, smart, skilled, quick, nimble. There was a lot to like out of Nylander, but the Canucks ended up taking Virtanen. Primarily, you would say it's because of the owner. There are some replies, no, Malhotra over Stenberg is dumb, but comparing Malhotra to Virtanen isn't doing him justice. There is no comparison there. Another reply, you have Cody Sievertson responding to the rumor that the Canucks re-signed Todd Harvey, one of their scouts and persons in their organization keeping him around. Cody Sievertson said, since 2020, the Canucks have not found a single difference maker. Even adjusting for pick volume and position, the results are quite unflattering. In 2021 and 2023, Canucks fans on Twitter universally wanted Stankoven and Benson. Sorry, you can't be getting out-drafted by Canucks Twitter. You just can't. There are some asterisks, though. Coots could be a difference maker, and they also found and monetized 3 third-rounders in Fernstrom, Brustevich, and Yermo, plus a 5th-rounder in Mirenberg, which earns some credit even though the real asset in most of these trades were the high picks that they sent. And finally, you have Jabo Vancouver, who went out there and said, hey, I'm not a fan of takes like these that's saying that, oh, Malhotra over Stenberg is like Virtanen over Nylander. If you want to argue that Stenberg has a better chance of being a dynamic player at the NHL level, that's a justified argument. But to compare Malhotra to a player who had major issues off the ice and had a 2-cent head on it, it's poor at best. Thomas Drance went out there and responded saying, I don't think Malhotra has a top 5 scoring profile, but his draft year production is several degrees more impressive than Virtanen's. And the other stuff. I think the cerebral side of Malhotra's game is a big separator for me. It clearly has enamored some scouts. I think that gives him a baseline that Virtanen never had. The bigger question for those who have had him rated higher is where the upside lands. Yeah. His track record as a high-end producer is basically just 6 months long. It makes the bet precarious in my view, despite the safe floor that Malhotra has as a prospect. It'll be interesting to see what he does in the NCAA, and the NCAA adjustment is way more significant than teams and public analysts currently project. The stylistic adjustment is huge too. Very little east-west possession-based attacking in the NCAA, especially for a slow-the-game-down type playmaker like Caleb. So we'll see where this goes. But for now, it seems like enough teams have him ranked in the top 3 that potentially he could even go 2nd overall if a team trades up with San Jose, leaving the Vancouver Canucks to be able to draft Ivar Stenberg number 3. There are a number of ways we can attack this conversation, but I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Caleb Malhotra being ranked as highly as number 1, and whether or not Vancouver will be the team to take him? Is he worth the gamble over Ivar Stenberg or even a Gavin McKenna, depending on who you ask? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on, and bye.